Jerry Adler has died at 96, passing peacefully in his sleep on August 23, 2025. You probably know him as Herman Hesh Rabkin from The Sopranos, that sharp, quiet advisor with the music business past. But here's the twist. Before TV ever found him, he was a Broadway lifer. He held more than 50 credits behind the scenes as a stage manager, producer, and director. He helped run classics like My Fair Lady and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. That is where he learned timing, truth, and restraint, the tools he later brought to your screen. I'm Sarah Reed, and I've spent days digging through old playbills, obits, and cast memories to pull together the full picture. Adler once joked, "I'm immortal." In a way, he kind of is. The work still breathes. So today, I want to honor the whole arc, the backstage craftsman, the late-blooming actor, and the beloved Hesh who could drop a line like a hammer and a hug. What's your favorite classic Broadway musical? Drop it below and let's see how many he touched without us even knowing. We start where Jerry started, in the wings, headset on, calling the cues that made the magic. Next up, the Broadway beginnings that built Hesh. Here's a simple question I love asking about legends like Jerry Adler. Who were they before fame found them? In his case, the answer is pure theater. Jerry was born in Brooklyn in 1929, right into a showbiz home. His father managed Broadway productions. His cousin was the great acting teacher Stella Adler. So while other kids learned playground rules, Jerry learned stage cues. He started backstage and stayed there for decades, shaping shows you still hear about today. He stage managed the original My Fair Lady, he worked on Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and he piled up more than 50 Broadway credits as a stage manager, producer, and director. He rarely stepped in front of the lights back then. He didn't need to. He was the person who kept the machine humming. Quiet, steady, exact. I picture him with a clipboard, a headset, and a calm voice that could learn a scene on a dime. That's where his honesty came from. On stage, you can't fake it. Audiences feel the truth. Jerry learned to respect that truth, night after night, curtain after curtain. And then, when most people think about slowing down, he did the opposite. At 62, he walked toward the camera. Next, the late bloom moment. How does a backstage pro become a screen actor at 62? With nerve, humor, and a great motto. Jerry liked to say, "Never say no," and he meant it. After decades running shows, he tried acting for himself. His first film role came in 1992 in The Public Eye. A year later, he popped up in Manhattan Murder Mystery. Instead of being a cute cameo phase, it became a second career. He found a natural presence on camera, warmth with a sly edge. You could feel the stage discipline in every pause. What really moves me is that he did this as others his age retired. He chased a new craft. He kept saying yes. He even wrote about it late in life, publishing his memoir, Too Funny for Words, in 2024. That title fits, doesn't it? It's like he's laughing with us about how long it took to step into the light. But once he did, he stayed. He grew. And that road led to one character who turned a veteran into a household name. The role would carry wisdom, conscience, and a little danger. The role was Hesh Rabkin on The Sopranos. Let's open that door and meet him right. Hesh Rabkin wasn't family by blood, he was family by history. Jerry played Hesh as Tony Soprano's Jewish friend, music business veteran, and quiet consigliere. He knew the angles, he knew the score. He wasn't a soldier, but he moved money and advice like a pro. At one point, he even fronted Tony a $200,000 loan. That's trust and leverage living in the same room. Across the show's run, Jerry appeared in 28 episodes, from season 1 through season 6. Every time Hesh entered, the air changed. The voice got lower, the stakes got clearer. This is where all those Broadway years paid off. Jerry's timing gave Hesh real weight. Clean, deliberate choices, never rushed. Critics and cast often described him as the old friend, consigliere, and sometimes the conscience. And that's how I read him too. The guy who could tell Tony an ugly truth without losing his seat at the table. Still, the character's best magic lives in the little moments, the lines that land and the silences that say even more. So let's have some fun. If Hesh was the calm in every storm, what did he actually say when the winds rose? Next, the wit and the wisdom. He stayed calm in chaos, but he also made people laugh with one clean line. In Season 1, Episode 10, Hesh listens to Christopher's new song and shrugs. A hit is a hit. Then he adds the kicker about pop success happening for reasons we couldn't comprehend or codify. It is honest, a little cruel, and very funny. That mix is peak Hesh. Another favorite arrives in Season 4, Episode 9, during the horse stable tension. The room is hot, voices rise. Hesh sits back, waits, and cuts through noise with simple, dry logic. Storm over. That's stagecraft on television. Hit the cue, land the scene, walk away clean. People on set loved that about Jerry. He could steal a moment without grabbing for it. The charm comes from respect for the material, not ego. I always think that's why fans quote him so much. The lines are tight, but the feeling behind them is deep. Hesh brought a grin and a warning in the same breath. Of course, there was more than wit in that man. There were shadows, debts, and deals that made him rich and kept him afraid. Let's turn the light a bit darker and talk about the moral lines he crossed. Hesh looked like a gentle uncle, but none of this world is gentle. His past is tied to a label called F-Note from the 1950s and 60s. He made money off royalties, loans, and contracts that did not treat black artists fairly. It's the part of the character that stings because it feels true to history. He also profited from this same mob economy that fed Tony's crew. He didn't carry a gun, but he carried interest. When Tony needed cash, Hesh collected. When trouble was near, he was smart enough to get scared. And he did get scared. Late in the series, after the death of his girlfriend Renata, he grows even more aware that loyalty can fade when money is thin and tempers are high. Jerry played those notes with a quiet, lived-in fear. It made Hesh human, not just a quip machine. That complexity is why the character lasts. We can like him and question him in the same scene. So if he was that close to Tony, friend, banker, consigliere, why wasn't he ever officially part of the family? The answer says a lot about the rules of that world. Up next, the not made debate. Hesh stood at Tony's right hand for years, but he was never a made man. The reason is simple and baked into the show's rules. Only Italians are inducted. Hesh is Jewish. He is an associate, a fixer, a trusted advisor, but never a soldier or capo. And that status matters. It explains his power and his limit. He can lend money, cut deals, and offer history. He cannot vote on hits or climb the ranks. Tony knows it, Hesh knows it. The trust between them lives without the title. That choice by the writers kept the character honest. He is inside the circle, but still outside the bloodline. It also lets us see the business side of the mob's world. Who benefits, who pays, who gets protected when lines are drawn. And yet, Hesh remains one of the few people Tony will actually listen to when the fog rolls in. That's a special seat. If you enjoyed deep dive stories like this, please subscribe to Golden American Legends. It helps this community grow and keeps these legends alive. All right, let's step beyond New Jersey now. Jerry Adler's range goes far past Hesh. Next, other roles that showed his full stretch. After Hesh, Jerry kept popping up everywhere, and he kept bringing that grounded warmth. On television, he played Howard Lyman on The Good Wife, turning a buttoned-up lawyer into a lovable presence. He appeared in Rescue Me, Northern Exposure, Transparent, and The Good Fight, often as judges, mentors, or sharp elders who could land a joke and a truth in the same beat. The point is range. He wasn't just the mob world guy. He fit into mainstream dramas and comedies with ease. On the big screen, he showed up in Manhattan Murder Mystery, In Her Shoes, Prime, and A Most Violent Year. Even when the part was small, he made it feel lived in. That comes from years of craft. You can't fake that. He found the breath of a scene and let it sit. I love that his second act wasn't about chasing stardom. It was about service to story. That is why casting directors kept calling, and that is why audiences kept smiling when he walked in. Now that we've seen the body of work, let's hear the voices. When he passed, the tribute said as much as any credit list ever could. When Jerry Adler passed peacefully in New York, the first thing I felt scrolling through my feed was warmth. Not just sorrow, gratitude. Co-stars and friends poured it out. Michael Imperioli called him a true class act. Lorraine Bracco shared a tender note about his kindness and guidance. Musicians and writers, people like Stevie Van Zandt and Robert King, posted memories full of respect. And fans flooded timelines with hashtag #RIP messages and favorite Hesh lines. I kept seeing that dry grin on my screen. Some even joked that he was the kid at 96, which is exactly how his energy felt. Light, playful, but steady. These tributes tell you something numbers can't. He made sets better, he made scenes better, he made long days feel shorter because he came prepared and generous. That is the best legacy in any craft. Your peers miss you, your audience keeps you, and your lines start living inside their own stories. Of course, Jerry wasn't done with the stage in his later years either. He stepped back onto Broadway and he told his life in his own words. Let's talk about that final return and the book that sums it up. Jerry never really retired. Near 90, he walked back onto Broadway in Fish in the Dark in 2015. That comeback fits the man. He wanted to work, he wanted to play, and he still had the timing for both. Almost a decade later, he released his memoir, Too Funny for Words, in 2024. In it, he looks back at the leap from headset to spotlight, the roles that kept him busy, and the simple rule that carried him there: never say no. I love that line because it gives you permission to stay curious at any age. He also leaves behind a family who felt that spirit every day: his wife Joan and 4 daughters. When I read those details, I get the sense of a full life, not just a full resume. The work mattered, but so did the people around the work. That's the lesson I'll keep from Jerry's story. Keep learning, keep saying yes, keep showing up with grace. Now let's bring it all together and talk about what his life adds to the bigger story of American entertainment. Jerry Adler bridged eras. He carried the discipline of mid-century Broadway into the golden wave of prestige television. That is why his presence on The Sopranos felt so natural. He helped make the show's world feel lived in and real. You could hear backstage wisdom in his pauses and see old-school craft in his choices. It also runs in the family. With Stella Adler in his bloodline, he was part of a tradition that treats acting as a patient art. But Jerry gave that tradition a twist. He proved that age is not a wall. At 62, he began all over again. And at 90+, he was still working, still writing, still sharing stories. He even liked to joke, "I'm immortal." It reads like a wink now, but the work does live on. The scenes do too. For me, his legacy is this: talent plus humility wins time. He honored both. He made sets better, dramas deeper, and audiences a little wiser. We don't have him here anymore, but we have the map he drew. Follow the cues, serve the story, and when the moment comes, say yes. One last beat ahead. Let's close this with thanks and memory. We just walked the whole arc: backstage boss, late bloom actor, and the Hesh who gave Tony Soprano both laughs and hard truths. Jerry Adler wasn't only TV famous, he was a Broadway lifer whose craft made television feel real. Reality beat expectation here. The quiet mentor was a master builder from the golden stage, and he found a second act that inspired anyone who thinks it's too late to start. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story moved you, please subscribe. This is Golden American Legends, and I'd love to share more living history with you. Where were you when you first heard Jerry Adler had passed? I'd love to hear your memory in the comments. Thanks for watching and for keeping legends like Jerry in the conversation. I'll see you in the next one, where the past always finds a new way to speak.